Part 4. You will hear an archaeology student giving a presentation on a prehistoric site called the Blackwood Estuary. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
For my presentation today, I'm going to share my research on the Blackwood Estuary site in the south of England. It is considered one of the most significant Bronze Age settlements ever found in Western Europe. I spent 2 weeks there last summer, volunteering with the excavation team. The site is truly remarkable. You might think it was discovered by a team of university researchers, but it was actually first identified back in the 1940s by a local fisherman named Arthur Evans. He was digging for bait in the mudflats when he struck some large pieces of timber. He noticed that the wood had distinct tool marks on it and seemed to be arranged in a deliberate pattern. He realized these were likely the remains of a structure. He reported his findings to the local council, but unfortunately they dismissed him, believing the wood was just debris from old ships. It wasn't until the 1980s that professional archaeologists took an interest. A team from the university conducted a geophysical survey. Unlike traditional digging methods or aerial photography, they used radar equipment to see beneath the mud without damaging the artifacts. This survey revealed a massive settlement buried 3 meters deep. Radiocarbon dating later confirmed that the site was approximately 3,000 years old. The reason the Blackwood settlement is so important is its state of preservation. The site is covered by a thick layer of river silt and clay. This environment is anaerobic, meaning there is a complete lack of oxygen. It wasn't the cold temperatures, but this complete lack of oxygen that prevented bacteria from rotting organic materials. As a result, items made of wood, leather, and even textiles, which usually decay and disappear, have survived in near-perfect condition. The people who lived at Blackwood were sophisticated builders. Unlike their inland neighbors who built directly on solid ground, these people constructed their homes over the water. The houses were circular and constructed on elevated platforms supported by wooden piles driven deep into the riverbed. This design protected them from the rising tides and kept their living areas dry. Inside the houses, archaeologists found evidence of a comfortable domestic life. Central to each home was a hearth made of clay, which was used for heating and cooking. But perhaps the most surprising discovery was the quality of their carpentry. Given the water location, you would expect to find remains of wooden boats. However, the most unexpected discovery was several wooden wheels. This suggests that despite living on the water, they had vehicles for use on dry land nearby. The settlers were not just isolated people, they were connected to a wider world. Excavations have uncovered beads, not carved from local stone as you might expect, but made of glass. Chemical analysis shows this material originated from the Mediterranean, which proves that there were extensive trade networks operating across Europe even then. The site also gives us clues about their diet. While they certainly ate plenty of fish, they also practiced farming on the dry banks of the estuary. Archaeologists were thrilled to find large storage jars, holding not water, but the remains of dried grain, specifically barley and wheat, which would have been their staple food source during the winter months. However, around 800 BC, the settlement was suddenly abandoned. Why did this successful community collapse? The evidence points to a dramatic environmental shift. It wasn't a sudden flood that initially threatened them. Instead, the river channel gradually became restricted by a buildup of silt, which caused the water levels to rise unpredictably. Eventually, a catastrophic event occurred. It wasn't an earthquake or an invasion that destroyed the village. Evidence shows a massive fire seems to have swept through the settlement. Because the houses were built so close together and made of timber and thatch, the flames spread instantly. The entire village collapsed, not into the sea, but into the thick river mud, where it lay preserved until today.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4.